What's up, guys? This is Chicha with Joshua again. But today we'll be doing something a little bit different. I stumbled upon this YouTube channel, Epic Rap Battles of History, where they took historical figures and had them use facts to essentially roast their opponent. So I thought this was quite interesting and a pretty engaging way to teach history to individuals who typically find themselves bored by dusty textbooks they typically use in school classrooms. So today's battle is between Stalin, who was a communist dictator in Russia, and Rasputin, who was a supposed mystic in Russia as well. So today, as we go through this video, I'll be commenting on their roasts, and at the end, I'll say who I believe was most savage with their facts and their beatdowns. So without further ado, let's begin. Story. Okay, they got the beard on point. Yep, that's the mustache. Warrior, oh my goodness. So essentially there Rasputin was referring to Stalin's characteristic mustache, which apparently looks like Warrior from the um, from the Mario Kart saga. Who I believe Wario, I actually think Wario is supposed to be the enemy of Mario, I think. Or maybe I'm wrong. I'm not even sure about that. But anyways, let's moving on. Yep, there was quite a few dictators of Russia. Yep. Oh, look at those eyes of Rasputin, man. It looks like he can stare through your soul. Anyways, Rasputin's reference to how Stalin was beaten like a dog, right, man? He's just laying the smack down now, isn't he? Anyway, that reference is actually something that is true, right? I think there's some historical documents which state that as a child, Stalin was beat by his father, which is actually something common he shares with Hitler. Hitler also was beaten by his father during his adolescence, and there's some who argue that that was a fundamental, pushing point that pushed Stalin to becoming the authoritarian dictator he became in his adulthood. So continuing on, some lag here, is it? What's the quality? See if we can speed this up a bit. Reference to USA State Georgia. That's true, he did build a superpower. So that's reference to the name Stalin, which was, I believe in Russian meant man of steel. And actually, hang on, I think they said something before this. Hang on. More back, further back. Yeah, that's right. So under Stalin's rule, I think he ruled for about 3 decades. He transformed Russia from a backward agricultural state into a European powerhouse by rapidly industrializing them, but at the cost of killing millions upon millions of his own Russian countrymen. Right, another reference here, superpower could be referring to how the name Stalin means man of steel, which is Superman. So superpower could be that reference. Not sure, but could be. Structuring Russian lives. Big dick mystic. So this is something Rasputin was quite famous for. So other than his mystical powers, which I believe, which his mystical powers gave him more fame in Russia. I think, during the Tsar Nicholas II rule, where he managed to save Tsar Nicholas II's son, who was suffering from some sort of condition which made him bleed easily and bruise easily. Was it think maybe hemophilia. I think the son was experiencing hemophilia, right, which was, I believe, was genetic. Many descendants from Queen Victoria actually had this condition, but by some miracle, right, by under Rasputin's instructions, the son managed to be healed, and after that, Tsar Nicholas II's wife was actually very fond of Rasputin and led to him receiving many benefits and privileges under the royalty's rule. But with reference to the big mistake, yeah, another factor that Rasputin was famous for was famous for being well endowed, and being a man whore essentially, where he slept with many women. So other than he had magical powers both with healing individuals as well as in the bedroom apparently. Stalin. Yeah, that's true. He did make Mother Russia kneel. Oh, savage. Yeah, so that's true. One of Stalin's sons was captured by the Nazis when after Hitler violated the 1939 Non-Aggression Pact and invaded Russia. So Stalin's son was taken as a prisoner of war. But later Stalin also captured a general, I believe it was general, like a German general, and Hitler proposed the exchange, where Hitler gets back his general while Stalin will get back his son. But yeah, I think Stalin was quite cold-hearted. He just said like, why in the world would I trade just a soldier, just like a corporal for a general, right? Empirically, it makes no sense. So he had no care that was his son. He just straight out laid out that a general versus a corporal, it's no competition, not even a trade worth doing. And on top of that, he went on to say something along the lines of, my son should be treated the same as other Russian children. Why should I save my son if I can't even save the other Russian children or soldiers who have been captured by the Germans? I guess that comes with the communist ideologue where you abolish class and all people are equal. So can say many things about Stalin, but it would seem that he was uncompromising with regards to his policies. Yep, that's true. Apparently, so that's reference to Rasputin's humongous shalong. Apparently, after he was died, they chopped it off. They chopped off his instrument and they had it preserved. Apparently, it was due to its massive size. It was a sight to behold. Yeah, this is something Stalin was very famous for, right? Anyone who was a potential threat or a betrayer, a traitor, or someone who could potentially cause treason or undermine Stalin's political rule, yep, that's it. You would find yourself being sent to the gulag or just being shot. You'd be tried for some crimes, maybe held up in a show trial, and then you'd be executed, along with your friends, family, anyone who could possibly seek revenge or could possibly be involved in the dealings to take down Stalin. All of them executed. That's a trait of Stalin. Very, very paranoid, but it ensured that. Ensured he was able to hold on to power for 3 decades until his death in 1953, I believe. Yeah, that's true. After Stalin was killed, after Stalin passed away, he was showcased in Russia. As a way, not showcased, like he was memorialized. Where they had a state funeral, where the public was able to come and express their pain and grief, where they mourned for the passing of Stalin. Because at the time, Stalin had built for himself a cult of personality, where he was seen as a god. So the passing of a god was very painful for the Russian people. But people were so eager to come see it, so filled with grief at the passing of Stalin that observers were actually trampled upon at the wake. So there were so many people all clamoring to get closer to see Stalin that Russians were actually killed by trampling. Yeah, that's true. Trotsky is basically this guy who was designated by Stalin's precursor. Who was precursor leader, who was Lenin. Yeah. So Trotsky was chosen as the person to replace Lenin after Lenin passed away. So Trotsky was I think was a famous general who led the Red Army, which is the Russian army. But instead of being able to take over Lenin, Stalin had Trotsky out from the party, and then he had Trotsky assassinated. So yeah, Stalin, not other than just being utterly cruel and oppressive, he was also a sneaky snake who managed to worm his way into absolute authority. What? Who is this? Lenin? Okay, so I guess this is going to turn out into a rap battle, not just between Rasputin and Stalin, but Lenin's getting involved. Okay, so the reference of dropping a hammer, the communist symbol of a sickle hammer, and bitch slap Hitler. Okay, this is not really a bitch slap Hitler. I mean, it's more of so Stalin did incur losses, but it was more that the damage to Hitler was much more severe. So after Hitler violated the 1939 non-aggression pact with Russia, he invaded Russia. But he should have learned from Napoleon. So the thing about Russia is that it gets very, very cold, especially in the winter. So I think around single-digit degrees or even lower. So instead of just even wasting soldiers to fight Hitler's army, Stalin just ordered them a full retreat. So they burnt all the crops and all the villages at the outskirts of Russia, and they retreated, causing the German army to just continue pushing forward, where they eventually were killed off by starvation due to lack of crops to eat and due to the freezing weather, right? So considering that Hitler had not planned for such freezing conditions, so many of the German people were in Russia wearing clothing which was certainly not suited to such freezing conditions, so like in their underwear. So they froze to death, and many a times, they were so weak and with lacking of resources, Stalin's army would be able to easily crush Hitler's army when they invaded Russia every time. So despite the multitude of losses, Hitler just kept on sending in soldiers, and as illustrated, Stalin bitch slapped Hitler. I have no pride for you who ruined everything my revolution was doing to stop the bourgeoisie. Right. So this is Lenin, who was I guess you could say the face of a Russian revolution, which was, I think, 1917, where they overthrew Tsar Nicholas II. So Lenin was the face of the revolution, where he wished to implement a communist regime, where, as he said, he destroyed different social classes, and instead made everyone equal. I think he mentioned bourgeoisie. Yeah, he was doing everything. He was doing everything to stop the bourgeoisie. The bourgeoisie essentially refers to the middle class, or in Marxist terms in Russia, was referring to the capitalist class who essentially owned the means of production, the more wealthy, basically. Everyone who was rich, everyone who was able to make money, these were the people who were considered bourgeoisie, and they were the targets of Lenin's wrath. Okay, proletarian masses were essentially the individuals who had no means of production. So the only way of earning money was through their own labor. They were laborers, essentially, the poorest of the poor in Soviet Russia. Oh my God. R.L. Stine. R.L. Stine is an American author, I think American author, who wrote the Goosebumps series, which is filled with horror, scary stories about different monsters that come to life. Frankenstein is referring to Frankenstein's monster, who had a very grotesque appearance, which is a bit similar to Rasputin. With as we mentioned earlier, his crazy eyes and his beard. Yeah, he was a bit grotesque to look at. Yeah, as I said, it's believed that Rasputin had heavy influence as the Tsar's wife, with many even saying that he was, as expected, sleeping with her, where he was using his moose shalong to have her ear, so he could influence the Russian politics. Wait, lag here, boys, again. See if we can get it to load a bit faster now. Yep, Stalin was put into a position of power. I think he was Secretary General of the Communist Party in Russia. So basically, he was like the manager. So with his position of power, position of influence, Stalin just used as an opportunity to employ people who are loyal to him. So he just found a lot of people who are loyal to him and put them into the party. So essentially, the loyalty of the ruling party in Russia shifted from being towards Lenin towards Stalin. So basically, he's leading a not really a revolution, not really a revolt, I guess you could call it. Wow. Yeah, so Stalin had a deformity. There's rumors that he had many deformities, such as like webbed toes, but I'm not sure how true that one is. But yes, his right arm was stunted because he had some accident in his childhood, and it affected the growth of his right arm. That's why we see many of the historical photographs which were produced by propaganda machines in Russia. They don't show the full length of Stalin's arm. You can't really show a weakness in the leader. I think also that Russia had another deformity with regards to his legs. I think one leg was longer than the other, but I'm not sure about that one. Okay. Lenin is, laying the smackdown. Birth of Marx, referring to Karl Marx, the author of the Communist Manifesto, which is also considered the father of communism. He heavily influenced Lenin, leading to the formation or creation of Leninism, which is heavily based on communism and Marxism, which in turn became the political ideology that took hold in Russia. Hmm? Did somebody say birthmarks? That's Gorbachev, who was one of the leaders in Russia after Stalin's death. Glasnost is a policy. I believe it's a Russian term, but it's a policy referring to openness and transparency, where under his rule now, people. Yeah, so the policy of Glasnost was very different to what was typically seen in Soviet Russia, where under Stalin and Stalin's rule, everything that was decided was very hush hush. All power, all knowledge was all kept within the government, where the actual people knew nothing. So under Gorbachev, the people began to know more as news outlets began to put out more truth with regards to Soviets' state of affairs. Cold War? Yep. Ronald Reagan, the former U.S. president, the Republican president of America, and McDonald's. It was Gorbachev who began to embrace a sort of capitalist ideas, which was opposed to what occurred under Stalin and Lenin's rule. He began to open up the nation to foreign nations and bringing in foreign elements to allow boost to Russia's economy. Oh, in referring to Rasputin, Stalin, and Lenin, or everyone who ends with in. Actually, it's not very easy, to put a roast or a rap verse out which hits everyone. But yeah, this guy managed to hit all three of his predecessors. That's true. Oh, is that PewDiePie? Yeah, I think that's PewDiePie. I don't know what he's doing, but yeah, I think I think it's a reference to under Gorbachev's rule where he allowed Russian male ballerina, which was which is goes against the typical Russian image that under Stalin's rule was cultivated. You know, the strong male man. That refers to the Berlin Wall. I think the Berlin Wall crumbled in 1989. Yeah, under Gorbachev's rule, which allowed, which in turn led to the end of the Cold War in 1991. Rasputin was known for being quite dirty, very unclean of a man with regards to his hygiene. Who was that? Oh my god! I think that's Putin. Yeah. I mean, you look at that. You look at the judo moves. Something that Stalin was famous. Putin was famous for. Yeah, Putin is quite famous for, I think, achieving a black belt in martial arts and participating in international competitions, I think. And yeah, I mean, the shirtless image of the strong Russian leader. I think there's a famous image of him on horseback in like some rocky streams, which is how I recognize it's Putin here. Yeah, the current president of Russia. Why? Half-Life. I think the last man who attacked him. Yeah, basically it's regardless of the ruler, the idea of taking out your political opponents seems still very pervasive in Russia. He's referring to the last man who attacked him. I think was not okay. He said live the half-life, so the person died, right? So basically, he's referring to I think a former Russian spy. His name was Alexander something. I don't know. I forgot his last name, but it's where a former Russian spy who Putin saw as undermining his political position in Russia was poisoned with some radioactive substance. So radioactive substances are well known for decaying into other substances, for breaking down into other substances. And the time taken for a radioactive substance to break down into other substances is known as half-life. The half-life is the name for the time taken. So that's the reference to the radioactive substance breakdown, as well as the fact that the Russian spy didn't live to a ripe old age of 100. He died quite young, with it being a half-life. So actually, a lot of these raps, a lot of these verses created by Epic Rap Battles of History's channel are actually very well written, like they have multiple, double, triple meanings, many hidden meanings upon each other. So it's very, very well written. Ex-KGB. So this is another thing that Putin is famous for, his past, which is being an ex-member of the KGB, which is the Russian equivalent of with the KGB being the Russian equivalent of the American CIA. CCP was how Soviet Union was known in Russia. Oh, that's it. Yeah, I think this was the season finale of season 2 for Epic Rap Battles of History. So it was pretty interesting, with the multitude of characters as opposed to the original expectation of Rasputin versus Stalin. We then had Lenin, Gorbachev, and then we even had Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin also shares a first name with Lenin. They were both Vladimir. So Vladimir Lenin and Vladimir Putin. Fun fact for all of you. Yeah, so other than that, I think the session was pretty informative, I still can't believe that how quickly you can learn. Like for me anyways, very quickly I learned facts that I didn't know, through video format. When I stumbled upon this Apple Rap Battle of History, I thought it was a very good thing that should be spread, to engage people's interest in history and remind people that it's not just dusty old textbooks and old professors who teach the subject. with regards to the rap battle, I would say that I think maybe Lenin. I think I like Lenin's verses with regards to um, the proletariat masses and the bourgeoisie. His Frankenstein line and Rasputin, and Stalin with his deformed right arm. I liked Rasputin as well, with his big dick mystic stuff with regards to his level of endowment as well as his mystical powers. Actually, another fun fact: Rasputin never was officially ordained as a monk. He just claimed one day that I'm a monk after apparently receiving some sort of vision. So he called himself a monk and began traveling the nation with and exerting his mystical powers. So yep, that's a crash course on modern Russian history. I think this covers nearly the last century. Last century from 1917-18. Yeah, covers the last century with regards to who ruled over Russia, minus some political characters who had minimal roles, like President Yeltsin, who was the precursor for Putin. But yeah, that wraps up this session of Epic Rap Battles of History. If there's any other character, I may do another video on Churchill versus Roosevelt, but I'll have to think about it. Anyways, thanks for watching. Hit the like, subscribe button, and this is the end of this episode of Epic Rap Battles of History. Stalin versus Rasputin. Thank you.